All right, everybody, buckle up, because today we are diving deep into the Twilight universe.
Oh,
But
okay.
not the sparkly vampires you think you know.
Mm-hmm.
We're going deep on Alec,
Okay.
the other Volturi twin,
Yeah.
the one kind of shrouded in mystery.
Yeah, he's definitely overshadowed by Jane
Right?
and her flair for the dramatic, but Alec's quiet power, I think, is arguably way more unsettling
Right.
once you really think about it.
Yeah, it's like Jane is like fire in theory,
Yeah.
like inflicting pain, which, ouch, no thanks.
Yeah, no thanks.
But Alec
Yeah.
just turns off your senses.
Uh-huh.
Sight, sound, smell, gone. Like, poof.
Just gone. Yeah.
Imagine being completely isolated
Mm-hmm.
in your own mind.
Yeah.
That's some next level creepy stuff.
Absolutely. It really makes you consider the psychological impact.
Right.
Because we've talked about how Jane's power is about inflicting pain, imposing her will.
Right.
But Alex is complete sensory deprivation.
Yes.
Like a total disconnect from the world.
So before we go full on deep dive into his powers,
Yeah.
let's rewind to Alec's backstory a little bit.
Okay.
He and Jane, they weren't always vampires, were they?
No, they weren't. Their
Okay.
story actually starts back in medieval Europe.
Okay.
They were twins with unusual abilities,
Okay.
which, as you can imagine, did not go over well back then.
I was going to say that's a
Wow.
recipe for disaster
Yeah.
back in those times.
Yeah, they were accused of witchcraft
Oh,
and faced some very, very grim prospects.
wow. Talk about a rough childhood.
Brutal.
No wonder they always seem a little, yeah,
Yeah.
on edge.
It's brutal, yeah. And so that's
Understandably so.
where our heroine, the Volturi, enter the picture.
Right.
They essentially swooped in and rescued the twins from being executed.
Oh, okay.
Earl saw their potential and transformed them,
Yeah.
bringing them into the fold.
So it's a double-edged sword, right?
Exactly.
On the one hand, you're saved from this horrible fate. On the other, you're now bound to this ancient, powerful,
Right.
and let's be honest, kind of terrifying vampire coven.
Yeah, and I think, that shared trauma,
Yeah.
that rescue by the Volturi, it forms this really, really intense bond between them.
Who, Jane and Alec?
Yes.
Okay.
But it also makes you question their motivations,
Ooh, okay.
right? Are they truly loyal?
Or,
Or are they driven by this, deeply ingrained survival mechanism developed from childhood?
that's a good point. It's like,
Right.
did they develop like a vampire Stockholm syndrome?
Yeah.
Where they feel indebted to the Volturi?
Right.
Even if deep down
Even if,
there's some resentment there?
yeah, and I think that tension, that ambiguity of their allegiance, I think it adds a layer of complexity to
Uh-huh.
their characters.
To their relationship with the Volturi leaders.
Yes, exactly.
Uh-huh.
It's like this unspoken question mark
I guess.
hanging over every interaction.
Okay, so we've got this backstory. We've got this, really intense bond.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Alec's power itself. Sensory deprivation.
Right,
Not as flashy as Jane's,
right.
but arguably more terrifying.
I think so, yeah.
What is it like to experience that kind of power?
Just imagine being completely cut off from the world.
Oh, man.
All your senses muted, no sight, no sound, no feeling.
Wow.
It's a level of isolation and vulnerability that most people can't even fathom.
No.
I can't imagine.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
It's like being trapped inside your own head with no escape.
Yeah, it's like solitary confinement,
Right.
but on another level,
Yeah, oh, wow.
because you're completely alone.
And strategically, for the Volturi, that's got to be pure gold.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He is the ultimate weapon for, neutralizing a threat,
Right.
for quelling any opposition.
Okay.
So, while Jane instills fear and pain,
Yes.
Alec induces complete helplessness.
Yeah.
He's like a walking, talking power outage on legs.
I like that analogy. Okay, so let's talk about that a bit more.
Okay.
The strategic implications.
Okay.
So, if Jane's the hammer, is Alec, like the tranquilizer dart.
Ooh, yeah.
They both get the job done,
I do.
but in wildly different ways.
That's a great analogy.
Okay.
Yeah. And it speaks to how the twins, I think, complement each other,
Right.
both in terms of their powers, but also their kind of roles within the Volturi.
Okay.
So Jane is very much the immediate threat, right?
Yeah.
She's the visceral warning.
Yeah.
Whereas Alec, he's the inevitable shutdown.
Oh.
The one you don't see coming until it's too late,
Oh, that's a good point.
right?
Wow, he is ice to her fire in a lot of ways.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
It's a really good way to put it.
Yeah.
And that's where that contrast between the twins gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Because their personalities are so different.
Right.
Jane, she seems to relish her power.
Uh-huh.
She's almost theatrical in how she uses it.
Right.
But Alec, composed, controlled,
Yeah.
almost emotionally detached.
That is fascinating, isn't it?
It is.
It's like their powers are almost an extension of their personalities.
Right.
Or maybe it's the other way around. It makes you wonder how much their powers shaped who they became.
Right. Did it amplify whatever was already there?
Right.
Jane, with her need for control,
Right.
inflicts pain to, assert dominance.
Yes. Yeah.
But Alec, he's a mystery.
Yeah.
Is he being merciful by, shutting off the world for his victims?
Right.
Or is it a crueler fate? To be completely at someone's mercy like that, totally helpless. Chills.
I know.
Oh, my goodness.
It really makes you question,
Yeah.
what is more terrifying, right? Excruciating pain.
Yeah.
Or the complete and utter absence of sensation.
Right.
And for the Volturi, that question isn't just theoretical.
Right.
It's a strategic calculation.
Totally. Because it's not just about inflicting pain. It's about control.
Right.
And when you think about it that way, Alec's power, his ability to neutralize any threat, no blood spilled.
Right.
That's true control.
That's true control.
Right.
And it plays into, I think, that underlying sense of unease
Yes.
that surrounds the Volturi, right? Because they're not just powerful vampires.
Right.
They're puppet masters. They're pulling strings from the shadows.
Yes.
And Alec embodies that.
He does. Perfectly.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got this powerful vampire.
Yeah.
Shrouded in mystery.
Uh-huh.
Obviously loyal to the Volturi, but we don't really get a clear read on Alec's inner life from the books, do we?
No, not really.
He's this enigma,
He is.
this quiet presence.
Yeah.
What do we know about what makes him tick?
Well, Stephenie Meyer has dropped some intriguing hints
Okay.
about his motivations.
Yep.
She suggested that his power might be his way of protecting himself and others from the pain he experienced as a human. It's like he's internalized that trauma.
Wow.
And his power is kind of a manifestation of it.
So his stoicism, his emotional detachment,
Yeah.
it's almost like a defense mechanism
Yeah, I think so.
that he developed to survive, like the Volturi in this world of power plays and constant threats.
Yeah, and that raises some really intriguing questions, doesn't it?
It does.
Because it's is he consciously repressing his emotions to cope with his role?
Right.
Or has his power, this constant state of sensory deprivation,
Oh, wow.
bled over into his own emotional landscape, making him truly detached?
That's heavy.
Right?
So we've got this whole other layer here to
Yeah.
unpack
It's a lot.
the psychological impact of Alec's powers. Because it's one thing to shut off the world around you,
Yeah.
but is he also shutting himself off emotionally
Right.
as a way to cope?
Right. As a way to survive.
That's heavy stuff.
Yeah. And it makes his interactions with everyone, but especially Jane, I think, even more fascinating, right?
Oh, totally.
Because you're always left wondering,
Yeah.
what's he really thinking?
Yeah.
What's going on beneath that calm, collected surface?
It's like trying to read a book with blank pages.
Yeah, totally.
There's a story there,
Yeah.
this complex inner life,
Right.
but you only get these fleeting glimpses.
Exactly. And those glimpses are often really open to interpretation, right?
Right.
So it's is he calculating? Is he compassionate? Is he haunted by his past?
Right.
We're kind of left to piece it together.
Yeah, we have to fill in the blanks ourselves, which is, I think, what makes him a character that really stays with you
Yes.
after you finish the books.
Totally.
Speaking of those glimpses,
Yeah.
let's talk about Alec in action.
Okay.
Specifically, the Cullen showdown
Oh, yeah.
and Breaking Dawn.
Yes.
Even though he doesn't actually unleash his power,
Right.
he's like this looming threat,
He is.
this silent storm cloud kind of hanging over everything.
That scene is a masterclass
Oh my gosh, yes,
in understated tension.
it is.
You can practically feel the temperature drop when Alec arrives with the Volturi.
Oh, for sure.
They have this aura of power, but Alec's is different.
Yes.
It's subtle,
Yeah.
almost insidious.
Yes.
It seeps into every crack and crevice of that confrontation.
It's like that moment when everyone realizes, oh, crap,
Yes.
he's here.
Yes.
And even though we don't see him do much,
Right.
things are about to get real.
It's serious.
Yes, exactly.
And it speaks volumes, I think, about the kind of power he wields.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to make a show of it.
Right.
His reputation, his very presence
That's enough.
is enough to shift that balance of power.
Right. He's the embodiment of, like, speak softly and carry a big stick.
Yes.
But, like, with a supernatural twist.
Exactly.
And it's not just the vampires who feel it.
Right.
Remember that scene with the mist rolling in?
Oh, yes.
Everyone is on edge.
Uh-huh.
Even the Cullens' allies.
Yeah.
It's like Alec's power is messing with their minds
Totally.
as much as their senses.
It highlights how his power transcends those physical limitations. It's about psychological warfare.
Yes.
It's about, like, sowing these seeds of doubt and fear.
Totally.
He's not just taking away your senses. He's taking away your confidence, your ability to fight back.
It's like he's already won.
Yes.
Before the battle even begins.
Exactly.
Just masterful.
Right.
Okay, so we've got this incredibly powerful vampire.
Yeah.
Shrouded in mystery, loyal to the Volturi, but with these hints of something deeper.
Yeah.
Something more complex, kind of simmering beneath the surface.
Absolutely.
So, what do the fans think about Alec?
Oh.
I imagine he sparked some pretty interesting discussion.
Oh, absolutely. He's a fan favorite for a reason.
Yeah.
Some see him as kind of a tragic figure, right? Controlled by the Volturi, forced to be a weapon.
Right.
They're drawn to that vulnerability, that sense of someone trapped by circumstance.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
He's got that whole, like, brooding, Byronic hero vibe going on.
Yes.
Which we know is, like, catnip.
Oh, yes.
For certain corners of the fandom. But it's not all angst and, like, longing glances.
No,
right.
Definitely not.
So.
There's a whole other side of the fandom that finds Alec's quiet power,
right,
his air of mystery, incredibly alluring.
Okay.
They're intrigued by his intelligence, his control, that sense that he always has a plan.
Right. It's like he's the ultimate bad boy of the Volturi.
Yes.
But instead of leather jackets and motorcycles, it's all like cloaks and ancient power.
Exactly.
What's not to love?
Right.
Or fear, depending on which side of the chessboard you're on.
Exactly. And it all, I think, circles back to those themes of power and control. We've been talking about, Alec represents a different facet of power.
Okay.
One that's subtle, insidious.
Right.
And all the more terrifying because you don't see it coming.
Yeah, you really don't.
You have no idea.
And it's interesting because he's a reminder that sometimes the quietest presence in the room can have the most impact.
For sure.
While everyone else is busy, making noise. He's already 2 steps ahead.
Yeah.
Manipulating the game board to his advantage.
Right. It makes you wonder if all that silence is just another way of, like, controlling the narrative.
Oh, interesting point.
Right.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, it's like he understands that true power isn't always about brute force.
Okay.
It's about influence.
Yeah.
About anticipation.
Oh.
He's always watching, always assessing.
Oh, yeah.
And that makes him incredibly dangerous.
He's playing chess and everyone else is playing checkers.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Like, why?
And in a world, like, obsessed with these outward displays of power, right?
Yes.
Alec's quiet control is even more unsettling in a way.
That's true.
Because it forces us to confront our own assumptions about strength and dominance.
It's like that saying, like the squeaky wheel gets the grease, but the silent, well-oiled machine is the one that, like, takes over the whole factory.
Exactly. He's a masterclass in less is more.
I like that. He really is.
Right. Proving that sometimes silence speaks louder than any roar.
Yes.
And I think it's kind of brilliant when you think about it.
It's true. It is kind of a subversion of expectations.
Absolutely.
Because you think, okay, vampires, they're all about, power and immortality and whatnot. But then you have Alec, who's just, like, quietly pulling strings in the background.
Absolutely. He's a testament to the idea that true power often operates in the shadows.
Oh, yeah.
Quietly shaping events without ever, like, revealing its hand.
He's like the puppet master's puppet master.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Oh, that's a good one. Okay, so...
It's layers.
It is.
Layers.
As we wrap up our deep dive into the enigmatic world of Alec Volturi, what's the takeaway here? What should our listeners be pondering as they go about their day, maybe side-eyeing anyone who seems a little too quiet and observant?
Right. Like, here's a thought.
Oh.
In a world that's so saturated with noise and spectacle, how often do we overlook the quiet ones?
Ooh, that's good.
The ones who observe more than they speak.
Okay.
Alec reminds us that silence can be a weapon,
Okay.
a shield, and a strategy.
Wow.
All rolled into one.
Ooh, that's a good one. He's a reminder that influence can take many forms.
Yes.
and that sometimes the most impactful players are the ones working behind the scenes.
Right.
Pulling the strings with a whisper instead of a shout.
Exactly. Exactly.
Ooh, chills. I'm getting chills over here.
Yeah.
He challenges us to look beyond the surface.
Yes.
To pay attention to those, like, subtle cues and unspoken dynamics that shape our interactions. That's a really good point.
For sure.
It's a good reminder that sometimes the most fascinating stories are the ones whispered in the shadows.
Yes, I love that.
And with Alec, those whispers, they linger.
They do.
Long after the book is closed.
For sure.
Well, folks, there you have it.
Another one.
Another deep dive conquered.
Done.
We hope you enjoyed this journey into the quiet and unsettling world of Alec Volturi.
So much fun.
Until next time, keep exploring those hidden depths, and remember, sometimes the most intriguing characters are the ones who make you work a little harder to understand them.
I love that.
And on that note, we'll say goodnight, everybody.
Good night.